What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the DGD Podcast. I'm Robert Reynolds. That's Dan Kiley. Dan, a long time no see. How you been, bud?
I've been good. It's been busy around this house. We've got a lot going on. I know the season ends, and you try to pack everything in when the season's not going on. And of course, I was dialed into the UGA basketball season head first, so had a lot of that going on. But ready to talk spring game.
Yeah, I know, man. G-Day is literally less than 24 hours away. So it's a good time to be talking spring ball. The culmination, the ending of spring practices before a little break, if I'm not mistaken, before getting ready for summer camps and then fall. So slowly but surely it's coming here, but we're going to preview G-Day 2025 edition and also kind of give you a breakdown on some visitors that are coming in or actually already there, right? We're going to talk about that. Also, off topic, a little bit of G-Day, but we're gonna have some fun at the expense of our friends up in Knoxville tonight. Hot topic. If you're Patrick Starr, you've lived under a rock, you probably don't know about Nico No Show. We'll talk about that too, though. But first things first, the show is brought to you by our guys at Alumni Hall. Right, get all your stuff, all your Georgia gear. Get it at Alumni Hall. It's all licensed. Nike, Cutter and Buck, Peter Millar, you name it, they got it. DGDpod.com/alumni hall. Use our link. 8% goes to, or 8% of your total order will go to the Classic City Collective. So support them dogs. If you don't want a Nico situation, this is a good opportunity to do it while gearing up for G-Day and everything too, might I add. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're listening to this and you're going to G-Day tomorrow, stop by the store on the Oconee Connector. Mention the show, get 10% off your order. Just mention the DGD podcast in store, you'll get 10% off your order. But if you can't make it, shop online, use our website. Let's get into it though. Dan, wrapping up spring ball, right? We sat there and looked at it. A lot of youth, right? The first G-Day, right? I'm pretty sure you've been to G-Days before, right? So I want to break this down first from a fan's perspective. What are you look like with it being non-televised? Do you think that changes things with regards to being there in person?
100%. Because prior to the SEC network putting a lot of this stuff on television, the only way you could see that stuff was to go to the G-Day. And I will tell you, and I will raise my hand, I am guilty of not going ever since it began to be televised, because I would much rather watch it from the comfort of my home. And I believe it was like 2 years ago where the weather was just really crappy. It was not a good day. But tomorrow is supposed to be good weather. Have an opportunity for. I would be willing to bet the turnout is going to be really, really good, because Georgia fans are starved for some football at this point, and they don't have the ability to sit at home and watch it on television. So the only way, like you said, the only way you're going to have any idea really what's going on is if you're there, unless you want to listen to Scott Howard on the radio, which, hey, some people love to listen to football on the radio. Like, to me, football is not a radio sport. It just isn't, even though I do it, which is like kind of productive, right? But like, to me, it's a visual sport. I got to see it. I need to see it because you can feel it when you're there in person. I just really feel like it sucks for the majority of the fans that it's not going to be televised, but I think it's going to have a positive impact on the practice itself, to where I think they're going to have a pretty good showing in the stadium. I know that. What 91K day or whatever it was, or 90, what was it?
It was 2016. It was a 93K day.
Yeah. I don't
His
know,
first
I said
one.
91. Yeah. I apologize, but he demanded a full stadium and he got it. And then the next year pretty good, and then it's kind of dwindled. But I mean, they've been really good attendance. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking shots at Georgia. I mean, I think we do a great job of putting people in the seats, but I think this will be probably one of the better attendance days in the last couple of years. I'd love to hear your opinion. I don't know that we're ever going to have that fever, because I feel like some Georgia fans have gotten kind of spoiled right? Kind of like the Red Sox fans, right? They were so starved for so long, and then they win the World Series a couple times in the 2000s, and all of a sudden, like, now they're pissed off if they're not in first place. And I kind of get that feeling, that sense from some Georgia fans. So I'm wondering your opinion. Do you think there will ever be another packed house, 93K, where it's standing room only?
I I think there'd have to be a drastic circumstance that hinders things for it to happen. Even then, I just don't know. I really don't know. Just to kind of be the devil's advocate, I think you're onto something there. I think Georgia would have to go through a period of serious regression to then get the hope, right? And that's not something that we all really want to feel right now, but I think that would probably kind of, because like the new change, if you think about going back to Kirby, right, 93K day, I mean, we've been used to Rick for so long. And so Kirby comes in, brings that new juice to the program, right? And I think that he capitalized off of it. And I think it paid off. Now, also, I don't think that the Masters being tomorrow, Masters Saturday, is helping out any. But at the same time, that's not an excuse for folks not, North Georgia folks or, South Carolina folks or whatever can, still get in there. But I'm with you. I think it would take something crazy for me to think that you could get the packed stadium again. I mean, like, think about COVID, right? If something like COVID happened again and it forced us away from the sport and then coming back, I think that would be something where people would be so juiced for it that they would go. You know what I mean?
I believe you. Yeah.
But I do think something along the lines of I think you're going to honestly see more attendance in person because of the fact that people actually have to go out and go to see it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still a good thing to to bring out the family and everything too. But now that, like you said, it's not on TV, right? Some folks have to suffer, but I mean, it does give folks like like I said, it gives people the option to go in there and watch it if they really feel confident. And I think we'll talk about some of the things here, but what the team looks like. I think people want to see what this team looks like. You've heard a lot of it, but I think people are going to be eager to see these guys in live scrimmage action.
I'm sorry. Say that last part again. I apologize.
No, I just think people are eager. I think people are going to be eager to see like just scrimmage, like live action. And so,
yeah. I mean, I think
you'll have a good.
right.
I think you'll have a good turnout
because
excuse me.
We've been so long without football that, like, football is football, right? I mean, for God's sake,
you get the sour taste in your mouth from Notre Dame game too.
Of course, and we'll talk about this too. But there are some interesting storylines for spring day that you would want to see. I mean, there are things to go see that you haven't seen yet. This wide receiver room. I mean, Kirby is very guarded with what he says. You and I were talking a little bit before the show, just to give you a little bit behind the curtain. He's so buttoned up and tight about the information that he lets out, and he's very reluctant to talk about things. But some of the things that he has talked about, and in my opinion, there's a reason, because he wants you to know about it, is he's talked multiple times about how excited he is about the wide receiver room. And, there's some new faces. Zachariah Branch is one of them, and I'm sure we'll talk about him.
Thomas is a big
Thomas.
Name.
Yeah,
CJ Wiley. Like, I think CJ Wiley is going to turn some heads. I mean, we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but just talking receiver room, I mean.
And the secondary. There are questions to answer. There are people who are going to be doing things, stepping into bigger roles. Not that they're not qualified, but this is going to be their first opportunity to take a bigger bite of the apple. You have, not arguably, it's facts. You have the highest rated corner we've ever gotten in the entire world.
Ellis. With Ellis.
And it's his turn to seize that role. I mean, we saw Keely Ringo in his second year. The first year wasn't very good. Obviously, he has some injuries, but the second year he took control of one side of the field. And for the next 2 seasons, it was his. Do we get to see Ellis do that? step in and just grab a hold of one side and say, hey, this is my side. Y'all worry about the other side.
Yeah, I want to keep that right there, just on the back burner for a little bit. I want to bring back to the fact that G Day and it not being televised. I think there's something that it will bode well for people torn on the fence about going. I think the change for it being untelevised, if you're questioning if you should go or not, I suggest you do. And I think this is why. Because what we see as a televised product is very structured. It's very right. And it's not Kirby's choice. It's not how Kirby wants to do it. With that being said, the fact that there's no TV schedule to follow, you're going to see G Day on a different level of structure. And I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things that you can see that you might not see because of how you have to structure your spring game due to television constrictions, right? So while people won't be able to watch it right from their homes, I do think if you have the opportunity to go, I suggest you go because you're going to see a whole different type of practice and scrimmage. I just get that feeling. I think you're going to see scrimmage, but it's going to be how Kirby wants it. And I think that in itself is intriguing enough to me if I were questioning going to go.
Well, and you might get to see something cool. Like they might do like a red zone challenge where they give like they just say, hey, we're gonna go like inside the 10-yard line and you got 4 chances to score.
Yeah.
Can you do it? Or 2-minute drill, like manufacture a 2-minute drill, and then it's like you said, there's no structure. They can do whatever they want. If you think about the way a normal practice works, right? You do inside, you do perimeter, you do skelly, you do all those types of things during a practice, and you're probably going to be able to factor some of that in, right? You might have the lineman down on one side of the field working because he's, if I'm not mistaken, he said it's a practice. I mean, it's going to be G Day, but I think there's going to be a lot of practice elements to it where, you have 7-on-7, the perimeter drill. I think you might have an inside. Dude, I would love, and I've never got to see this at Georgia, I would love to see inside drill. That is one of my favorite things because you're running the ball. They know you're running the ball. And it is best on best. And I mean, stuff like that. You're not going to see that in the spring game, right? But if Kirby has his way and does whatever he wants to, you might get to see inside drill. That would be a lot of fun for me.
It'll be interesting how that plays out, though, to be honest, though,
I don't know. Like, I don't know what he's planning on doing. And he hasn't said. He didn't say, hey, we're playing this like a real game. I'm sure they're going to have officials there, all that stuff. And then one of the other things, and this is probably a very small part of it, and this is probably, these coaches hate this shit being on TV because they're not trying to give anything away or anything like that. But if it's not on TV, they can run whatever they want to. You know what I mean? Like they're not giving anything away. That's the biggest
thing, though. I think that's actually the biggest thing that's going to benefit is, like from a fan's perspective, part of me wonders. Right, part of me wonders if Kirby's going to let it loose a little bit, like you would hear, what we hear from in practices. Right, if you hear hot mic Kirby Smart, like on the bullhorn, right? Like if that happens, dude, I'm a fan and I can be around that and hear that, oh, buddy, that'd be golden right there.
I'd be willing to bet with the amount of kids that are going to be in there, you probably
will see a tame. You'll see a timid. You never know though. Kirby does have that hot streak. The hot mics and stuff.
Red ass Kirby.
Basically.
Kirby's going red ass on everybody.
Let's do this. We talked about that right there, but let's get into the X's and O's. All these positions, right? I think the key for Georgia fans looking ahead to tomorrow, right, is I feel like we want to see how Gunnar is in person, right? This will be, for the most part, the public's first opportunity, to go and see Gunnar as a starting quarterback, right? We've heard about things, right, up to this point. We've heard about a lot of things. But tomorrow is a good opportunity for the public to actually get an opportunity to see if what's been going on, right? See how things look. And I think you'd be remiss to see or you'd be remiss to not say that you're not excited or intrigued to see Gunnar Stockton. But I think overall, I want to look at the quarterback play, though. I think this is Gunnar's team. I don't see any reason not to believe that. But I'm excited to see what the quarterbacks do, how they handle it, because you're going to get an opportunity to pass the ball around like crazy. It's just if it's like a typical spring game, you're going to air that bitch out. So do you agree with that? And if so, what are you excited in regards to the quarterbacks? What are you looking for when it comes to that?
Well, I mean, the one thing that Kirby's made it pretty clear is this is not a quarterback competition, that this is Gunner's job, and he would have to royally screw the pooch to lose that opportunity. And I don't see that being a possibility. But the one thing you have to keep in mind with any position on the football field is that you're one play away, right? So, I mean, we always talk about the 2 deep, 3 deep in all these different positions, wide receiver, lineman, and obviously the most popular person in the world is always the backup quarterback. Doesn't matter. It's always the backup quarterback. But in fairness, we have not had an opportunity to really see what Ryan Puglisi can do at quarterback, but we've heard a lot of good things. He's got a lot to learn. We've heard that coach speak too. But if you've ever seen the man in person, and I'm going to say man, because he does not look like a kid. He looks like a damn man. He is, as my son told me when we were standing on the sidelines, he goes, bro, he's a unit. And he definitely is a unit. And the reason I'm interested to see him is not because I want him to start over Gunner. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, for all intents and purposes, he's one play away from having to play. And I would like to know that the person who's on the bench holding the clipboard, if he's handed the keys to the castle, can he play? And because, one of the things that makes Gunner special or gives him an advantage over everybody else is the way he can run the football. And what are the downsides to running the football? You take a big shot and, you might have to miss a quarter. You might have to miss a play. You might have to miss time.
I mean, we don't want to think about it, but it's possible. You could miss an extended period of time.
Correct.
If things,
neither one of us are wishing ills on our man.
For the record.
Right. I'm just saying that, like, I'm intrigued because we got to see an opportunity. We had an opportunity to see Gunner play against Notre Dame. And I don't think that any of us were like, oh my God, he's the next coming of Peyton Manning. All right. I don't think that, but I think everybody was like, I'm comfortable with this. Like, he's not, there was 2 sets of people. There were like, he was only good in high school. I don't think he translates to the SEC. And then there's other traits. Other people were like, I think he translates just fine. And so the first time we got to see it is a freaking college football playoff game. I mean, how about that for your welcome to college football? I thought he handled it extremely well. He handled it way more than I could have handled it at 20 years old. I would have pissed my pants. And this man's out there doing just about everything we needed him to do. I mean, obviously we fell short. We didn't get the win, but you can't. I don't think you can. Maybe you can. I can't blame Gunnar Stockton for that loss. So I felt really comfortable with him coming into the season as the quarterback. Everything that we've heard out of camp, the limited information, is that he's doing very well. I want to see what Pug can do. I just want to see. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Don't read any more.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the quarterbacks, I do want to see that too. I think first off, I want to see how Gunner controls and commands the offense, right? I think, especially with the new pieces, that's going to be something that's going to be key just to see where the chemistry is at this point in time. And again, you're going to get a lot of reps, in my opinion, passing the ball. So you're going to get a lot of reps and opportunities to throw the ball to different guys, right? You kind of see what these receivers are about, right? The optimism around the receiving core as a whole, right? The massive change per se, right? So, looking at that right there, but I think I want to open up a little bit more offensively. I want to see the combinations of offensive linemen. I know there's some guys out right now for the spring. Calhoun was one that I wanted to see. He's out for the spring, but nonetheless, I want to see how our offensive depth looks, because you've got your ideal starting 5. I think Coach Searles might have that situated, but you're going to need to rotate guys in. And honestly, I think you need to see, better depth. I think that was a problem last year. Offensive line play was not where it needs to be. And a part of me wonders how Kirby addresses the running the football, right? I know it's a spring game. I know you want to throw the ball just to prevent the injuries, but I think it's a good opportunity to get some more reps in for the running backs as well. I think you have to make the most of those reps when you do run the football. That was something that we struggled with last year, and it's something that Kirby had said throughout the entirety of spring football to this point is he wants to get back to the basics, and that's running the football and defending the run. I want to see how we handle that.
And you bring up an interesting point about wanting to be more physical and more, and attacking more in the running game, because that is the one thing that coaches tend to stay away from in the spring games is they're a little bit leery to run the football a lot because higher risk of injury when you run the football, with guys coming downhill and stuff like that. So that's going to be a tightrope for him, right? Because I think you're exactly right when you say that he wants to showcase that a little bit, but at the same time, how do you do that without risking injury? You're not going to two-hand touch it. You want to hit it. That would be interesting to see, Robert. I think it's a good, valid conversation piece because so many coaches don't want to do that. And like you said, typical spring game, air it out. And the reason you do that is to prevent a lot of injuries. But Georgia has to get back to the roots and run the football more. And I cannot believe I'm saying that because I was the pass guy. But I mean, that is something that we could always hang our hat on is we could run the ball better than anybody. And that just has been the case lately. And it's not from a lack of talent. Definitely not. I mean, we've had talented running backs. We've had talented offensive linemen. I mean, I know half the fan base would blame Bobo, but
it's not his fault. And still are.
Yeah. You know what would be badass to see? If they brought a freaking fullback back in the game. Holy shit, I'd lose my mind. Run the I formation a couple times.
I got to do a shout out to my guy, Cornbread Cowboy. Bring the fullback. Bring it back.
That would be great.
I mean, I wouldn't be mad about it. I think you actually, now that you said that, it makes me think about this, and I think you might actually have bodies in the tight end room to be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some unicorns for sure, but we also have some guys that kind of look like a fullback. So you're right. I mean, I guess they call them H-backs now.
Of course.
But you could run fullback. We just don't have that big old bowling ball like Brendan Sutherland. Like, you remember him?
Chappis?
Well, no, Sutherland was
No, I know. I was just saying another name.
Well, one of my buddies, Des Williams, got to play fullback. He was on that Stafford Marino team.
Good call. No, I think, excuse me. I think looking at the offense, right? I still think the quarterback's going to be very intriguing just to see from the backup quarterback perspective what Puglisi looks like. But we have to take just a couple minutes at the least on these receivers. Just the things that I've heard, it excites me, and I want to see what these guys look like. Because I've heard good things about Noah Thomas. I've heard good things about Colby Young. I've heard good things about Zach Branch, C.J. Wiley, Talon Taylor. Now you have the opportunity to see it, right? And the public gets to see it. So I'm excited to hear about that and what that's about. Because if you can sit there and show the people that what we've heard is true, but you're going to see the Georgia fan base ramp up in a sense of, hey, I think we're on to something here, right? Now, whether it's false hope or not, that's to be determined. But if good things come tomorrow, that leaves me to wonder what that's going to look like, come fall. Just going to be honest. When you play Marshall, it's going to look like that.
Well, I think the one name on the wide receiver room that I'm most interested to see is Zachariah Branch because Yeah, if you think about all the guys that have come in and transferred, I mean, Dom Lovett came in as a transfer, and I mean, fair to say he lived up to expectations. I think he did. I think Dom Lovett was the player that we thought he might be. The
I
one,
think you still got. It's hard to say on that one, but I'm not going to stop your story.
no, I'm just saying he wasn't a flop, right? But we, like the one that comes back, the kid from Savannah that went out to USC and then he came back or to UCLA. He came back here. He was on the roster, but he was a 5-star coming out of high school. Demetrius Robertson.
D-Rob, he went to Cal.
Yeah, Cal. Sorry, and he came back home. And we were hoping to see this electric guy, and it just didn't pan out for him. No fault of his own. He tried. It just didn't happen. Some of these other guys, wide receivers that came in, yeah, you get this, and I know it's not fair on the kid because you just get these hopes that they're going to come in and be Superman, right? But Zachariah Branch offers a level of electricity that we haven't really seen recently. I guess maybe Mecole Hardman was like the last guy that was just truly electric.
You could argue, yeah, for sure. I think it would be something yeah.
I mean, obviously, we're not talking about George Pickens. I mean, because that's a different type of guy, right?
Yep.
But this guy can get up and go. I mean, he's just got, and he's an explosive playmaker with the ball in his hands. At least that's what he's been advertised as, and that's just something. Obviously, we had Ladd and we had Brock Bowers, are both really good with the ball in their hands. But it's just something that we want to see. And if he can provide that spark, I think that's going to help everybody in that room. It's. I don't think it's out of school or out of I don't think I'm out of line saying that the wide receiver room as a whole was a disappointment last year. It didn't produce at the level that we had hoped, and just like you said, one of the things that we want is hope coming out of this. We want to be excited coming out of the spring game, and if a guy like Zachariah Branch can pop, make some explosive plays, some highlight plays, just kind of just like light the stadium up a couple times, I think that would go a long way.
It makes me think, there's a lot of the fan base that complained about the screen game and things like that, right? Understanding, I think you kind of get where I'm going with this, that perimeter blocking was an issue that didn't help, along with just blocking in general. I just get this feeling that, if we see the screen game, you're going to get these people, it's part of the fan base, I should say, it's going to immediately just groan, right? But if you're telling me that Zach Branch can catch a screen and make something happen and just see chunk plays or touchdowns, I think people's mentality on the screen game will change if that can happen. And I don't see Coach Bobo leaving the screen game out because you know as well as I do, it's an extension of the run game. It can drive the run. But maybe it's something where, when it comes to Zach Branch, maybe it's not the screen game. Maybe it's a short slant route. Maybe it's whip routes. Maybe it's any kind of route you can imagine that's going to get him space. Maybe it's a smash route, right? Things that you might not expect, right? I think everybody thinks screen game, but these smaller routes, these comeback routes, things like that, where Gunner can just fire that thing in there and get Zach Branch or whoever the ball in some space with some separation. And at that point, you just let them take over and see what happens. I think that would be exciting to kind of get a feel for and see what it looks like. I mean, would you agree on that?
Yeah, and you know what makes the short passing game and screen game more effective? Being able to run the damn football. Something that Georgia didn't do very well last year. So if the focus is on the run game and they're able to run it at the level that Kirby wants to run it at, then all of those little things open up. And then all of those little things that got stopped short because they were not afraid of us running the ball. They did not have to bring extra defenders down into the box. It all goes hand in hand, and that's the great thing about football, right, is that you can't just isolate one thing and say this has to be fixed. Well, you have to fix other things to fix that one thing. It's never one thing. That's why football is the greatest sport in the world, is because it's a true team sport, and everything has to work. If one part of something isn't working, then nothing works. And that's why I love football so much. And it's exciting when you get to see a new season, and that's what the spring game is supposed to symbolize, spring, the birth of everything new, is this is the new opportunity for Georgia football. We have been really spoiled. We've been a really good football team. And we had, for God's sakes, we made the friggin' playoff last year, by God. And people are acting like the sky has fallen. But they've done a really good job of roster management. And you have to say that in this time and era. We didn't lose a lot of high-profile people that we just couldn't afford to lose. We brought in a little bit that we need. But you're exactly right. Those little slants, those short routes, whip routes, those things that maybe were not effective last year could maybe become very exciting for us this year, because one of his biggest focuses was running the football. And I know people hate running the football because it's boring, but
that's a key part of the game. You got to understand that too,
bro. It's half.
I mean,
it's half of offense, right?
Yeah. I think that's a good time to transition to the defensive side of the ball. I think as I preface this, I do want to make sure that everyone's aware. If an offensive play, right, it brings out a touchdown or something like that, this is the one time where the fan base is legitimately torn on offense and defense, because if the offense has a huge play, right, that's a huge plus for the offense and a huge minus for the defense. So it makes you, in this sense, get super hyped up about offense, but then scared shitless about the defense. Vice versa as well. It works both ways. So keep in mind that it's you're going against each other, and so just keep that in mind.
And also keep in mind that the spring game is geared for the offense. So don't flip out.
Yeah. No, we've seen situations in previous G days where the defense, got cooked a little bit and then turns around and drops, averages 10 points a game, or giving up on defense. So just being honest about that, But as we do transition over to the defensive side of the ball, oh man, I'm ready to see the speed of that defense. I know we've talked about Ellis, and trust me, we'll get touched back on that probably. But I'm ready to see the pure speed of this defense. And that's across the board, right? I think you had a situation last year where some experienced guys are now off the team, and that opens up, obviously, positions for people to move up into. And I just see a little bit of inexperience, right? There's some experience there, but a lot of inexperience, but extremely freaky athletic ability. And from defensive, maybe it's at this point in time, you do want to have you're not going to see complex nuances of the defense just in full effect yet, right? Especially with the inexperience. But maybe this is just one where they say, hey, see ball, get ball, And if that's the case, and just let them play and not think as much, boy, that defense is going to just be flying around if that's the case.
And, the one thing that we heard last year was it was the fastest defense he had coached. And, some of those guys are gone. But, I mean, the one thing that Kirby's defenses do is they go sideline to sideline and they fly to the ball. So you're talking about you want to see these guys moving out there. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a Kirby defense, a defense while Kirby Smart is the head coach that's not fast, it's not physical, right? I think that was – tell me if I'm wrong. Was that not one of the biggest head scratchers last year, was how many missed tackles Georgia had? Because that is not something.
It was rough. You know what, though? I'm not gonna say this is I think this could be a contributing factor. I'm not gonna make an excuse for it, because it's inexcusable based off of what Georgia's standard is. Part of me wonders if adjusting to the longer season due to the new playoff format forced him to kind of reassess how he practices and how, especially during the off season, because Georgia practice is extremely hard, probably one of the hardest practices in all of college football. And so if that's the case, it's body preservation to an extent, right? We were also banged up as hell last year too. So again, I'm not making excuses, and it's also in the past. But part of me wonders how that played into that, and in regards to preparation. I would like to think that it wouldn't, but at the same time, I feel like there's got to be a certain level of impact there. Again, I also don't think you had guys that really, it just wasn't up to the standard with regards to loving the game of football. And Kirby said that during the spring too, right? He wants to find guys that love the game of football. And on the defensive side of the ball, that means, hey, you got to have the willpower to get that person down. You got to want to get them on the ground more than they can get past you.
I could tell you that I've not been at one single football practice, and most of you have not either, but I can guarantee you that tackling is a priority. He was angry as hell about it last year, and it's hard to fix things in the middle of the season, to your point. Long season, got to keep everybody healthy. But spring practice, boy, it's a long time between now and, September. So he's going to wear your ass out right now. And I'm sure it's been a focus. And, like he's been preaching it over and over again, fast, physical, and guys who love to play. And I think that's the hit, I think the hidden message in there is that we got to find people that want to hit. And, like I always tell, obviously being on the football board for 13 years, you have young parents come up when their kids are starting to play football. And I always tell them, you'll find out in the first 5 minutes once we go pads whether your son loves football or not. Because it's not something that you get used to is hitting people. It's either something you like to do or something you don't like to do. Very rarely do you find a kid who's terrified to get hit, and then all of a sudden he turns into a demon. It's just something you're born with. It could, because running into another human being as fast and as hard as you possibly can over and over again.
Yeah,
it's not normal.
It's not normal. Yeah,
yeah.
I learned that. I learned that quickly. I mean, I don't think it's a slap to anybody in the face here, but not everybody's built to run into people. Not a lot of people don't want to get tackled, which is why offense exists like that, right? I learned that's why the case for me.
Listen, I had a high school football coach, Kevin Maloof. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a great football coach, and he said, "Listen, if football was for everybody, there would be 400 of you sitting here, not 65 of you." So, yeah. And he's 100% right. I mean, in every year through rec, you see kids coming and going, right? And it's the same. There are guys who make it to the NFL who will openly tell you they don't like to hit. I mean, I can't remember what wide receiver it was. It was one of the smaller receivers, super fast, and it'll come to me at some point. But on the NFL, he's like, the reason I'm so good is because I don't want to get hit. I mean,
the willpower to avoid a tackle.
Yeah.
Love it.
So it is what it is. And then to go even a step further, defensive players are a different brand, right?
Oh, dude, they're sawed-off individuals, man. Let's be serious.
I was not a defensive player. I could not be. I was a punter, and then when I transitioned to a tight end, that was fine. I didn't mind hitting people, but I did not like getting hit. So
you also just block. I mean, to be fair, you made contact whenever you blocked, but it's not the same as like a pure defensive guy. Yeah.
No, I'm talking about me one-on-one in the hole lined up trying to tackle somebody. I'm like, no, I'm good. But like I had no problem going across the middle, catching the football, getting hit. That was fine. I guess I was more focused on the football and didn't think about it. I'm not sure. But but I know we kind of went off the rails here. I think one of the biggest concerns with this Georgia football is the box. We've got incredibly talented young linebacker, Justin Williams from the class last year. And what was the linebacker we got? No, the linebacker we got this year. That was the number one linebacker.
Zayden Walker.
Okay, the number one linebacker. These guys got to make an impact. Elijah
Griffin.
Elijah Griffin, 5-star
Isaiah
guy.
Gibson.
Yeah, all these guys, 5-star guys, best players in the country. Jordan Hall has had a good spring, so we hear. But we have relied on some guys up front for the last couple of years, and now it's that. What do they say on the billboard? Now it's time for a new breed of dogs.
Is that what they do down there? Yeah.
Yeah, the next batch, they're up. It's your turn. We've heard good things, good positive things. The very limited tidbits that we get is that the defensive line has been going hard. Christian Miller's not practicing.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you're going to see him this spring. Yeah.
Which is actually kind of a good thing because it allows a lot of other guys to kind of
Get
get
the
the reps.
volume of reps too. Yeah,
But
I mean,
I think that's important. That defensive line rotation, making sure that we have a good rotation, having guys coming off of the edge. It would be great. I would love to see one of these guys pop and just absolutely blow up. And we do every year. It's incredible how Georgia just keeps rolling it out. It seems like it's got to stop at some point, but it just doesn't. And they just keep reloading. And it's not like they're putting duds in the gun. They're reloading this thing with silver bullets, buddy. And just, I mean, they're
it ain't. It's hollow points. It ain't no bullshit ammo, right?
no boy. They are ready to cook, and I mean, they got, like I said, there's so many high level talented guys that like it. Like for me, I'm not a recruiting Nick like you guys are. Um, where I don't know everybody's name, and they all kind of run together because it happens so fast now. These guys are in and out, in and out. But it's just 5-star after 5-star after 5-star, and it's kind of like that thing that Alabama had back in the day when they were just stacking them on top of and that's where Kirby came from, and he's just stacking them and stacking them, and it's always so exciting. Yeah, but the one thing, and he says it takes. If you watched his press conference, I think it was 2 weeks ago, he said that it takes 3 years to be a player at Georgia. But now he said now we're having to cheat that somehow. And he goes, I know you're not ready to play until the third year, but now I got to ask you to play in the first or second year. But I think those days of waiting to the third year are gone. I mean, they're just gone.
Yeah, especially with the world of NIL and stuff. Yeah, you have to prep these guys. I mean, you rotate them in. You know what I mean? Like try to find ways to balance to keep guys happy and stuff. But I mean, that's a whole different beast, honestly.
I mean, because let's just play scenario here, like just fantasy land here. If Ellis Robinson wasn't given an opportunity to play this year, do you think he's sticking around?
It'd be hard pressed to believe it. I mean, there's a chance, but it's hard pressed to believe he would.
You got to get these guys on the field. That's my whole point. And I guess my other point is that there's so many of them. I don't envy the task of trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Because didn't rotate that much in the past. Defensive line maybe, but line safeties, corners, stuff, they don't really rotate, but Georgia does. They manage to rotate them, and they don't lose anything.
I got to do the first prediction of the night.
All right.
In regards to G-Day prediction. When I look on the defense, I just get this feeling that Quintavious Johnson is just going to have a monster day. I've been an extreme advocate for him, and based off of what we've been hearing, it's proving accurate. But I just get this feeling that we are expecting him to come in and be a key contributor on the defensive, whether it be at the edge position or defensive end, however they want to play him. And I think that's another thing that I want to talk about for another situation. But I think he can wreak havoc. He's just an avatar when you watch him on the field. Number 33. It's just even last year I saw him on the field and I was like, good God, like who is that? And then I had to think about it. I was like, oh, that's Quintavious. So he's physically just gifted talent for measurable standpoint, freakish athlete. But I think when I'm looking at it too, though, not only do I want to see one specific player, I'm going to be interested, Dan, to see what kind of defense do we run, because I don't think this defense is built to run the mint 4-2-5 like we've been trying to do, because I just don't see that Jordan Davis body type there that allowed you to run a 4-2-5. You don't have Jalen Walker. You don't have Chas Chambliss. It's kind of the tweener sizes, right? Like 6'2", You've got some long guys on that defense now. There's 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", whatever the case may be on the edges. 260, some of them 280, right? Like I think Elijah Griffin is kind of like that, right? So you've got some size there. I just don't know necessarily what kind of. I think you might see a traditional four-man front, and I think it'll be interesting to see how Coach Schumann coordinates the defense to fit the personnel. If you,
Well, I was the one thing I'll never worry about is what they're capable of doing on the defensive side of the football, because you have three of the smartest minds in America on the defensive side of the ball. You have Coach Kirby Smart, who we know was an insane defensive coordinator. You have Will Muschamp, Coach Boom. And look, you can say whatever you want to about that man as a head coach, okay? Maybe it just wasn't right for him. Some people were born to
as
be
a coordinator,
coordinators.
dude is legit.
He's the best of the best. And then you have Schumann, who has proven, that he can handle the job. So you have three guys who are as smart as they come. They're all involved in the recruiting process. Not one of them is isolated. So they're bringing in these guys with an idea of how they want to play them. To your point, this would be interesting to see how they're deployed, but I am not worried at all that they're not going to be able to make it work. I think they have an idea. And the cool thing about the evolution of football is you always get to see something new, right? And most of the times it's somebody else, or a lot of times, like, you'll see a new tactic deployed in a place where it doesn't matter, right? A small school. You have that one small school coach who will not punt on fourth down and kicks an onside kick every kickoff. I mean, just like random crazy stuff, because he says, statistics prove that it's better to go for it on fourth down than punt. I mean, you just got craziness everywhere, right? But when you have a talented staff like they have at Georgia, they're able to create new ways to beat you. And then they're able to go and get anybody they want for the most part. I guarantee it, we're going to see a hybrid look at some point this season, and it may not be like a base defense. I mean, obviously, because there's bases for a reason. But we're going to see guys deployed in areas that we never considered. Like, wow, what are they? Oh, wow. Like, that guy's dropping back in coverage. This guy's coming. Like, what are we? And it's going to work, because, I mean, listen, I know I'm biased, but I think it's the best defensive room in the country. I don't think you're going to find a coaching staff that coaches defense better than what Georgia has. I mean, there are some very good defensive coaches in the country. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's Georgia and nobody else. But I'll put Georgia's coaching staff defensively against anybody in the country. Anybody, anywhere, anytime. I'll let them match wits with another defensive staff, and I like our chances. And you can multiply that because we have the talent to do it.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned Ellis, right? Is there any other defensive guys that you're intrigued to see, or position groups that you're interested in hearing about or seeing about ahead of tomorrow?
Ellis Robinson, DeMello Jones pushing Daniel Harris aside. I think it's safe to say that the opposite side is held down. Oh my gosh, why did I just blank? Dalen Everett. Sorry, Dalen Everett, I believe, is locked in on the other side.
Yeah.
And Daniel Harris is the guy that stuck around. He's done a good job, but Kirby's always favored the older guy. But those two guys are so young and so talented that I'm interested to see what happens to Daniel Harris. But you know what? Iron sharpens iron, right? So it's one of those situations where you've got two just studs on your ass, and it's either shut up or, it's put up or shut up at this point. You're either going to play or you're not going to play, because those two young guys don't give a shit about your feelings. They're trying to play. They're trying to go to NFL. They're trying to play. So if you're not good enough, you're going to get pushed out of the way. And I think that's something to pay attention to. The spring game is which one of those guys out of that three really pops, really, stamps it. I don't see a scenario where Dalen Everett gets bumped out of the way by anybody.
No,
that's not happening.
So. No, I don't think so.
And then at the safety, we know KJ is incredible. KJ Bolden, and he's going to be great. It doesn't. I mean, I think we're okay. Like, I don't think anybody's worried about KJ Bolden. But the guys next to him, Janelle Aguero came in really highly rated and recruited, had a couple flash moments for us, but really hasn't had an opportunity or just hasn't delivered on his limited opportunities to really stake his claim. And granted, there were some really good players playing in front of him, so I'm not hating on the guy in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying it's time for him to make it his own. And I know that there's another name I'm missing back on the back end. There's somebody else in the back end. Safety.
Ja'Cory Thomas. Are you talking about safety?
Safeties.
Or Ja'Cory Thomas, Adrian Maddox, Zion Branch.
Yeah, well, I do want to see what Zion Branch brings to the table. I mean, a lot of people were kind of making the joke that it was a package deal and that's the only way we were going to get Zach Branch. But no, hey, listen, the guy's a good football player. Georgia thought enough of him to give him a scholarship. So I want to see what the back end looks like because we just hung our hats on Daniel Jackson and Malachi Starks for the last couple of years, some North Georgia kids. And, some new opportunities. And like I said, we already know that KJ is going to be great. Thank God he flipped and came to Georgia. Too bad Caleb Downs didn't come to Georgia too. That would have been amazing.
That'd have been a cheat code.
But so the back end, I obviously want to see what happens there. And then the other thing I want to see is I know everybody loves Cole, the linebacker Cole. Everybody loves him. It's just he was the hot button. Everybody talked about him, just glazed the piss out of him. But I want to see Williams. I mean, I was told Justin Williams was as good as they get. So I want to see him. And, I know it's hard because you got C.J. Allen, who is, I mean, boy's a dog. So that linebacker room is competitive as hell, brother. We got some thumpers too.
Yeah, I think my last thing that I want to see before we talk a little bit about more who's going to be showing up here, I want to see who's going to be the on the field leaders and show us who it's going to be, not just here. I want to see who's going to be and be obvious, not sit here having to scratch your head and guess. I want to be able to know who it is. You know what I'm saying? I think that matters because if we compare it to the standard, right? Last year you didn't see that, and so it was not obvious if it was there. I want to see something. I want to see a situation where the leadership is blatantly obvious, and I want to see it resonate through.
It's supposed to be C.J. Allen, is it not? Is it not supposed to be C.J. Allen?
In theory, that and maybe even KJ.
I think it would be harder for KJ, but yeah, you're right. He's got to be the quarterback of the back end. But I don't know. Like Roquan was unquestioned leader on the football team. A guy like that,
like Nakobe as well.
Yeah, Nakobe.
Nakobe was a different beast because Nakobe was just the leader of the linebackers. But if you look at it, Jordan Davis was the heart of the defensive line, and you had Chris Smith and all these other guys in the backfield. So you had this leadership all around. So it's a little bit different, but it would be ideal if you could find a leader at every level. But
yeah, for sure.
I just want to see the leadership on the field take over, find who's going to be that leader or the vocal leaders there, because I think that just will take you a lot farther if it's blatantly obvious rather than just guessing. Because if you're guessing, there's a chance that it might not even be existent.
Yeah, I know we hear little tidbits coming out, right? Like sometimes when people say something over and over again, you're thinking they're overselling it, trying to convince you, right? But then sometimes the way the information comes out, you really feel it. And if you think about a locker room with 100 guys in it, right? Very rarely is there a guy who can go to the center of the room and tell you to shut your mouth and everybody goes dead silent, right?
Yep.
That very rare. But you're starting to get the idea that Gunnar has that in him. And like he's quiet. But if you've ever been around him, he's a very confident person. Not cocky, but he's confident. And if you listen to the guys talk, they're not like, oh yeah, he's doing great, he's doing great, whatever. Like they glow about him in a way where they're excited. And if you think about when Jake Fromm took the job from Jacob Eason, that's kind of the same vibe you got, right? Like Jacob Eason was the glory boy. Like he had all the hype in the world. He had all the talent in the world. He had all the hype, like just everything. He had everything you'd want in a quarterback. But the one thing he didn't have was he wasn't the alpha male of the locker room that could take it over. And everybody inside the locker room said that Jake Fromm was, and the team rallied around Jake Fromm. And, Carson Beck, a lot of people will tell you is more talented. Gunner might have what it takes, like the it quality that nobody can ever quantify. And maybe that is the leader that we didn't have last year, right? And like you said, when you're guessing, you don't have one. But if you listen to the way people talk about him, you get that vibe that he has complete autonomy to where everybody in that room looks to him. And that, I mean, and if that is true, if that is the case, and this is Dan reading into it, you can call me an idiot if you want to. That's fine. But just the way that I perceive the message that's coming out, I'm getting that feeling that he's got that juice, that it factor. And your question is who's the unquestioned leader? It just may be him.
Maybe. I just want to see it be obvious. You know what I mean? I think it's a good time now to kind of look into some recruiting news, regarding G-Day. Break down a little bit of a visitors list and also a little bit of recent news. So for tomorrow, there's actually a Georgia target, Keelan Jones, is expected to announce tomorrow. Ironically, he'll be at G-Day, so that'll be fun to see. Just going to let you know now, I'm predicting him to be a dog as well tomorrow. So there's that. Also, there's an Under Armour event up here in Charlotte, and a lot of North Carolina talent was showing out, right? I was excited for it. And I think one of the key takeaways was PJ Dean. Two-way player, really, now. Up at West Forsyth, right? Brother of Jared Wilson. And just to see him at, 260 some pounds, win MVP in the event as a D lineman when he was, at one point, he was 300 pounds playing offensive lineman. Dan, I don't know. I doubt you expect it. I don't expect you to know this, but dude is a freak. Humongous. I'm talking ginormous hands. Ginormous hands. He's expected to announce as well May 12th and release the top 3: Georgia, South Carolina, Ohio State. Over on the Patreon, dgdpod.com/Patreon. Went ahead and made that prediction. I've got PJ Dean coming to Georgia. I'm feeling about 7. If I had to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, about a 7. Actually, now put it like 7.5. I think he's going to be visiting before as well, but nonetheless, right? I expect him to have a situation. I think PJ Dean is a dog. But we'll kind of look over some of the visitors list, right? It's going to be a loaded G-Day. And we talking back before with it being non-televised. I think it's going to be different how things are presented for recruits as well. But I think you have to look at some guys, Lincoln Keys, Vance Spafford, Mark Bowman. That's a big tight end. Big tight end prospect. You got Devin Benjamin, Anthony Kennedy, another guy up here out of North Carolina, Ekene Egboko. Carter Lucky. Ekene is Namdi's brother, Namdi Egboko. So you've got him. You got Carter Lucky. I think everybody knows that last name. I don't think that's a give. That's Tamarian Watkins, Terrius Favors, Kavon Canciario, my guy Brody Keefe up out of Myers Park. If you haven't heard of him, I highly suggest you look him up. Kid's a freak, man. Low key a freak when it comes to just high point in the football. Good hands, solid hands too. Been visiting South Carolina, been visiting Ohio State, showing them some love, but Georgia's there in the mix too. I think this will be his first time he's been to Georgia since late last year. I think November may have been the last time he visited. So he's there. He's already there. Solomon Mathis, Whitley Cadeau, Darrell Rivers, Kedrick Golson, Chad Fairchild, Zeke Marshall. Like I said, Keelan Jones earlier logged a prediction for him to go to Georgia tomorrow. Brock Williams, Josh Dotson. The list goes on, right? It's a massive, massive list. Dan, when it comes to those types of those lists, I know you don't necessarily do the recruiting as much, but it does make you feel good. And maybe the non-televised spring practice could be a benefit to the players or to the recruits there as well, because you can kind of show in a different manner, to help with recruiting.
So I used to be one of the biggest recruiting guys in the world. I used to subscribe to all of the services, and I followed every second of everything. Jeff Centel, I used to watch his Wednesday night shows when he used to do them at Kroger, and I loved it. I loved recruiting. However, in today's time, I just don't buy into it at all, because these kids, they change their mind every 5 seconds. They don't honor commitments, and it's all about the money. So a kid could be locked into Georgia, and then right before he signs, another school calls, says, "We'll offer you another $1 million." He's like, see you, gone. That's where I've lost my passion for recruiting. So I apologize that I can't speak as fervent as you would want me to be. So like when you tell me that this guy's going to commit, and I don't mean to be rude or crass or anything like that, but I just don't give a shit until they're on campus anymore. Because until I see them running around, I don't care. And then even then, they could turn around and enter the portal the next week. So I've just lost it. I'm basically rooting for laundry at this point. Just anything wearing a G, I'm rooting for it. And I don't really know who half the people are anymore, because they come and go so frequently. And to be completely honest with you, there's only one 2026 recruit I even give two rats' asses about, and that's my son. So, Kirby, if you want a quarterback, you can come on down to Mill Creek and check him out. He's pretty good. But
see what you did there.
Yeah, I kind of had to shut it down this year and really focus on my son's opportunity to play. And clearly, Georgia has not called. But he did get invited to Auburn's practice or the thing, so that's kind of cool. But hey, there's a lot going on. A lot of the cool thing is, and this is where I'll leave you on the recruiting. The good news is the University of Georgia, every name that you want, you're in on. Very rarely do you see a kid who you would want, and he's like, "Yeah, Georgia's not in the mix." So that's a great place to start, right? And then you have some great coaches in there, and the one thing that that really stuck out to me, when I don't remember who asked him the question, and forgive me, but at his press conference they said, "Come into your office and said, 'This is what another school's offering me. Can you beat it?'"
Talking about how he handles NIL
right,
driven kids and stuff.
He said that hasn't happened to him yet, but he said if he did, he'd mark him off the list, because he has think if it's about the money, he's not going to play. He's not going to be able to play here. And I love that answer, 100%. I mean, could it cost you a really good player somewhere? Yeah, but I think you're going to dodge more bullets than you will anything else. So. And I know how excited you get about recruiting, and I love it for you. I love that you're still able to get excited about it. And I'm the old man, get off my lawn at this point. Harrison tells me every day that I'm getting older.
That's because he's just young as shit. It's okay.
Yeah, but no, listen, there are some really good, talented players. I'm glad that they're going to be on campus, and I don't mean to downplay it, and I'm not trying to disrespect you, because I know how much you love it. But it's just like the climate that we're in today, it's just so hard to get emotionally invested in something that has a chance of just disintegrating right in your face for no other reason than somebody threw a bag at him.
I do think it's important, though. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, because it becomes harder to really invest the energy, if you will, because of situations like that, right? But I think it's a good time that we do this. You talked about dodging bullets with NIL. maybe our friends in Knoxville might not be so lucky.
Ooh, boy.
If you don't know what we're talking about right now, it's the whole Nico situation. Apparently didn't show up to practice today. Didn't tell nobody he was not showing up. I don't know if listen. I've never seen Pete Nakos comment on the show by any means, but after the situation, I don't know if you saw it on X. Dude, there were some people just slam shit talking Pete Nakos. But after today, though, Pete Nakos was right. And I'll tell you what, as a Georgia fan and as a Georgia podcast, I don't think you understand just how much fun this brings me and joy this brings me to sit there and understand that On3 was straight shitting on Tennessee and their fan base on X all day. It was hilarious. So much so that Chad Simmons I'm expecting Pete Nakos to get a raise Monday if his tweet is accurate, or excuse me, if his post is accurate. But no, I think this is a perfect example, Dan, of NIL and how something's got to change, in my opinion, and fast. And Kirby's kind of he's kind of alluded to this, but I think this situation, and it couldn't have happened to a better fan base and a program if it was Florida, but Florida's got their own demons with Rashada still popping up. So if you're a Georgia Bulldog, you're loving this shit, by the way. But neither here nor there.
Well,
it's just a perfect representation of the dark side of NIL.
And I think this is a strategic move on his part. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's a holdout. And he knows that there is a restructure coming and there is changes coming to the way that NIL can be dished out. And I think a lot, like Kirby mentioned at his press conference, Brooks asked him a great question and he gave a real thoughtful answer, that nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen after the decision is made, like how exactly they're going to rectify it, right? So to me, my interpretation of what's happening at Tennessee is that Nico is making a calculated move, thinking that whatever he's able to accomplish before the deadline or the change is made, that he'll be grandfathered in, right? So he's trying to get one more bite at the apple. Like he was paid, was it $7
yeah, because it could be the summer before
right.
this thing, before that comes in, and yeah. I think you'll see that honestly happen more frequently, though, getting kids signed, like 2026 kids as well, too, Dan. Getting them committed and getting their NIL endorsement stuff signed before the expectation. Yeah.
Because I think the expectation is that everybody's money would be
rev sharing.
Would be grandfathered in. So they're not going to be able to retroactively go back and take your money away. So Nico was paid $7 million, if I'm not mistaken, to go to Tennessee. At least that was.
I think it was 8 over 3 initially.
Right. So he's like, well, I need an extra 5. Go ahead and give it to me, and then
I think the number they were talking about $4 million, in the $4 million range, like Carson.
Well, hold on, time out. He wants $4 million more.
I don't know if it's per year or not. I've heard different things, but yeah. Sorry,
couldn't happen to a better place. But no, I mean, I get what he's doing. I don't agree with it. I wouldn't allow my son to do it. But you know what? It's everybody's different, right? Like the way I'm raised, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm in the minority. But if you sign a contract, you live up to your contract, right? Do you remember the movie? The Adam Sandler movie, Mr. Deeds?
Yes.
So the quarterback comes in and demands more money, right? And he said, well, I had a good year last year. He goes, well, if you didn't have a good year, would you give me the money back? He goes, shoot, no. He's like, then why would, I know that's stupid, but that's kind of where I go back. Like,
it's a good analogy, good movie.
But, I'm just saying, like, these guys come in and they demand all this stuff. And, like, just for once, it's like, what are we teaching these kids? Live up to your responsibilities, right? I mean, just you agree to something, live up to it. I mean, if you want to negotiate for more money, that's fine. You can ask for more money, but you live up to the contract.
Yeah.
Say, hey, listen,
Well,
you show up, you do the work, and be like, hey, listen, if you can give me more money, I'd appreciate it. But you show up.
see, this is my thought process too. Georgia fans have become increasingly impatient when it comes to Kirby Smart and how he handles, you know, bidding wars, right, for elite players. This example is probably the most high profile, perfect example that you could have asked for in favor of how Kirby's handling NIL and bidding wars when it comes to recruits. I don't think you could have asked for a better situation and a better time.
It's everything wrong in college football coming to a head.
I mean, you got to be careful with it. But I mean, even then, though, I mean, it's like a horrible PR nightmare for Nico as well, right? Like,
what's he going to do
you
with an
look,
NFL contract?
yeah, you're not wrong.
But like, here's the thing: the NFL contracts are capped, right? Your rookie contracts are capped. Like they're slotted, they're capped. There's an amount, like, so what's he going to do? Just sit out for 3 years because he's pissed off that if he has a good rookie year? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either. But no, I mean, it's just one of these things that, like, if you look at some stats, I mean, you have the entire media just blowing up over this, by the way, too. And so, like, Bear, what's his name, the stat guy, whatever, had talked about it. He threw it was like 11 or 12 or 19 touchdowns last year. 11 came from like three, Vanderbilt and two FCS schools or two of their low level schools, and 4 of 9 touchdowns in SEC play totally came from the Vanderbilt game. So he only threw 5 in the remaining games in conference play. Only threw 5 touchdowns. 4 of them came against Vanderbilt. So that stat line to me, I couldn't see Tennessee ponying up to that. I guess let's leave the question here, and we'll leave this in the comments as well. So if you're still watching this, like, follow, subscribe, rate, review on the audio portions of things. But drop a comment. Do you think Nico plays week 1 in a Tennessee Volunteer jersey? Yes or no? Dan, do you think he plays as a Tennessee, or do you think that was his send off, or do you think he comes back and do you think he plays week 1 with Tennessee?
I think it's a major red flag if he doesn't. I would just tell him, son, you better be playing. Like, if you, that would just be a major red flag on him to me. But listen, I know I'm in the morning. I read comments on Twitter all the time. People think his kids should make unlimited money and have no consequences for anything they do. So I know I'm in the minority. It's the culture that we live in. There's no accountability. So I know I'm going to catch heat for it. But I would tell him, son, your ass better be playing in that first game.
I'm gonna make the. I think Tennessee ponies up and deals with it. I think he stays. But the problem is, if he stays, I think if you're not careful, it can damage the locker room. So I think there's something
that
there.
money around.
That ain't gonna happen.
No, it ain't.
But no, so I think fair, I suppose. But no, I think he stays. But this is a nasty little hostage situation, if you will, what he's putting Tennessee in right now.
It's a black eye.
But again, I don't care because it couldn't have happened to a better program. So, anyways, we'll leave that situation there. Like I said, if drop a comment, do you think Nico plays game 1 in a Tennessee uniform? Just yes or no. But in the meantime, G-Day tomorrow. If you're listening to this, if you're watching this, and you're going to G-Day, have fun. Right? Have fun. I think that's the key there. Let us know what your thoughts are of G-Day 2 on social media. If you're if you were excited, what stood out to you. Obviously, if you're listening to it on radio, Dan voices opinion. But our guy Scott Howard does a good radio call too. So
Not a reflection of Scott Howard. I'm just saying I prefer to watch it. It's a medium.
Okay.
It's a medium that I
Good
prefer to
record
watch.
clarification there. Good clarification of record.
I mean,
But
I
yeah,
do high school football on the radio, so I
know you do.
I have an affinity for it, but I just say like I prefer to watch it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel you.
Like I can watch a baseball game and I don't miss a thing.
Yeah. But yeah, no, so if you're going to G Day tomorrow, I think it's at 1, if I'm not mistaken. I might be wrong.
You talked me into going.
Good.
It's only 30 minutes away. I guess I could make it.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Tickets are still on sale too. So
I think they're $5, right? Is that right?
5 or 10.
That was probably 10. Everything's going up.
Yeah. But yeah, if you're going, enjoy yourself. Hope everybody has a good time. That's all we've got for the show tonight. Again, make sure to like, follow, subscribe, rate us, review us. Let us know what your thoughts are there. Dan, any final thoughts before we send this off?
Everybody, please stay healthy. That's it. No major injuries. I mean, we get a little sprain, something, that's fine. But, no major injuries.
I think that's a good send-off. With that being said, have a great morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you watch this or listen to it. We'll catch you on the next episode. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.